Third Rumble, told you. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Stormwatch. If you're here, you probably know what this is, but I will tell you what we do in a little bit. I am joined today by my normal co-host, Kimber. Hey, what's going on, Kimber?
Hello, I'm in Nebraska today. Hello to all the Nebraskans out there.
And as we know, Nebraska's internet, it's still 300 baud, which is why Kimber does not have video. And Glenn actually bothered to show up to work this week, unlike the past four. Glenn, how's it going?
It's going well. Yeah, I finally decided to roll back in. I couldn't let people forget about me. So
I
we're back.
mean, even when you're here, it's pretty easy. So anyway,
Yeah. Hey.
um, and we're also joined by Brett Callow from Emisoft. We're going to give Brett a really cool intro in a little bit, but Brett, you want to say hi to everybody?
Good morning.
It's very early for Brett too, so you all should be thankful out there that Brett joined us today.
Brett's shirt is perfect, by the way.
It is. It actually really is.
Time of day.
I have to start though with putting Glenn on the spot. I'm going to switch over to the other thing because Glenn was out on the 2-week hiatus that we all were forced to have, and Glenn extended that with a pre-commitment to have another 2-week hiatus. So Glenn, you've been out for like ever. Did you do anything at all while you were out for 4 weeks, or is it just kind of the same what you do here, nothing?
No. So yeah, as you mentioned, I had before joining GreyNoise, I had one vacation planned, and then the GreyNoise shutdown happened. And fortunately for me, that meant the longest break probably my entire career, and I'll probably ever get until I retire. So definitely made the most of it. Yeah, it was pretty nice. I did some scuba diving in Mexico, some shark diving, which is a thing that I usually try to do at least once a summer. And then I had a big trip over to the Netherlands and Amsterdam, Brussels, and just kind of bebopped around, and it was amazing.
I am trying to figure out, how did you avoid? I paid good money for the shark attack. And how did you how do you avoid those things?
They're just really nice to me.
So you're like Aquaman.
Yeah, you got to have your alliances. They're on my team, which I hope this ages well, actually. This might not age well. If I keep doing it every summer.
If you do the shark thing every summer, I will eventually get you. This will be great. Cool. Well, I mean, all kidding aside, it is great to have you back. It's amazing that you happen to miss 2 of the most frenetic weeks of Vuln releases ever in the history of Vulns. But
there's a lot to catch up on. Yeah. But I will say, as much as it's hard for you and I to be nice to each other, but the team did great.
They did, absolutely.
The tags that were put out were great. The research was great. Yeah, it was a lot to catch up on, but in a really proud way, because we could see how we were able to keep operating with kind of less people in the queue. So it was nice.
Yeah.
Good job for GreyNoise.
Yeah, we had some folks with some personal things come up too. So the team just did a phenomenal job keeping up with everything. It was incredible. I'm proud of every single person, including Glenn, on the team. So we're going to talk about Move It today. We'll show you that we have some Move It activity in the GreyNoise data, which is cool and kind of negates some things maybe I was saying, or possibly negates some things I've been saying on these episodes. But one reason why I want to talk about it is we tell you about like the things that are hitting us, and we aren't going to see a lot of hits with Move It again. We have seen some more recently, but we're not going to for lots and lots of reasons. We've talked about all those reasons before, but it doesn't mean that Move It hasn't caused a lot of problems, and is continuing to cause a lot of problems. And I don't have the time to track all the vulns that are happening and all the side effects of all the vulns that are happening. It's just because that's not something that I do for a living. But we are joined with someone who actually does do that as part of normal course of operations. So this is, I'm going to get off of me real quick here. Or get off the screen and get back to normal people. So Brett Callow, you're from Emisoft, and like you're every bio view says threat analyst. I'm like, gosh, that does not do like the chronicling and the analyst and the research work that you do justice. So I'm wondering if you could give us a little bit more of an idea of like what your job is in Emisoft, and like what are the things that you do to keep track of these things, and you kind of give some background on how you manage to keep track of things before we dig into Move It.
Yes, I'm a threat analyst, and we aggregate data from as many sources as we possibly can. There is very little insight into things like ransomware numbers. Nobody really knows whether they number of incidents are trending up or trending down. So we try to shine some light on that.
And you do a phenomenal job with that. And I so with Move It, like I just because I follow you and Pogo like for the data breach stuff, especially the ransomware stuff, just because you're the two of the most prolific folks out there with it. I'm just going to zoom real quick back to this because we were just having a discussion this morning about that, and this was a really great observation by Pogo. And I will read it for the folks like that are audio only. So apart from the estimates of how many victims there were in the Move It data breach, and apart from estimates of how much money Klopp might be making from it, I dread seeing the estimates of how much money this will cost the victim entities in incident response cost and costs associated with incident response. And you gave an estimate. I didn't have a chance to read through. I follow along. So one of the orgs actually did post an estimate already, didn't they, of that?
Yeah, they did. Maximus put its recovery and remediation costs at 15 million.
So just to put that in context, this is like file transfer and print spooling software that has the stupidest name on the planet. No one cared about it before. Suddenly, some people find vulns in it. No one does anything about it, and as a result of that, with this one company alone has $15 million in incident response costs.
I'd like to add some context to that number. So when we say these big giant numbers that we attribute to remediation, like what does that number actually mean to people? Like you can say 15 million, but that's made up of so many different things like replacement servers, people, like man hour kind of stuff. But what else could possibly be in that number?
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure whether I'll be including within that figure the cost of credit monitoring for the individuals who've been affected. And perhaps it could include replacing the Move It installation, moving to something else. I just don't know. There wasn't any detail.
Wow. I mean, that's just the initial cost too, because there could be downstream costs from this. Because while Move It was also attacked, who knows if there are still folks inside these organizations there. But like just to bring it back to and kind of focus on Move It. So how many orgs so far have been hit by this attack?
So far, about 550 that we know about. That number, however, is likely to increase significantly because, for example, one of the victims was National Students Clearinghouse, which partners with about 3,600 US post-secondary schools.
So do they do is that like are they like an IT services firm for them? So like those schools are running the Move It software, or they might have their information disclosed or stolen as a result of the Move It breach from that one organization?
Yeah, they are obliged to share certain information with the clearinghouse. How many of the colleges and universities have been affected at this point isn't clear. We know there has been 100 and something at the moment, but that could increase by 3,500.
Wow.
I was reading a report over the weekend from Axios, I believe, and it was kind of stating that the number of ransomware attacks in June doubled, like fueled strictly from the Move It vuln. I don't know if that stat feels right to what you've seen, Brett, or
yeah, and I'm not even sure whether this should be classed as ransomware. There was no file encryption. This was simply data theft, plain old hacking. But that's for another conversation. Ransomware.
So wait, so of these events that have been happening, do you have an idea of how many, like, or were any of them actual traditional ransomware, or were most of these just, hey, we're breaking in through Move It, we're stealing your data? And did they ask for ransoms, or did they ask for? Did they try to extort them to cover up the fact that they were hacked, or did they just steal data and the people had to disclose that because of disclosure rules?
Yeah, they've stolen data and they are threatening to release it online unless the impacted organizations pay. And the demands are quite significant, at least the ones I've heard about. They're running into $1 million+ bucks.
Wow. Actually, Glenn, if you're going to say, you were going to say
Yeah, I
something?
was just saying that it is an interesting conversation, like ransomware versus just straight up extortion or, like it almost maybe, I don't know that it matters, but it almost may be time for that conversation too, with how we classify these incidents. Does it change things from a incident response perspective? Maybe, maybe not. But as far as like intent, there's certainly a different method or tactic, TTP basically, for these attacks.
Yeah, and it also matters from statistical purposes.
Mm-hmm.
As you said, people are talking about ransomware numbers doubling, but are they really? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah, this is a really cloudy. Unfortunately, because we don't have no country has, or no state even has, good breach reporting requirements for anything, or incident reporting requirements. It's going to be a long time before we have like NTSB level data to help understand what's actually happening, for these type of events. I'm wondering, do you think that with a lot of the we're about to go back into school season, so a lot of schools quiesce for the summer. I know there's admin staff at a lot of places and do things, but generally speaking, schools are somewhat dead during the summer period, and they kind of kick back in the fall. Do you like? And so yeah, I'm asking prognostication, and you can feel free to decline to prognosticate if you want to. But I'm curious if you think that there's the potential for another spate of these extortion attacks once schools are back in session, once people, are back on the job and their heads are, back in the game of doing the work they do there. And like, are attackers going to wait to do extortion because there are people actually back in their seats at work ready to take the extortion email or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. This is an annual event. We see a significant increase in the number of ransomware incidents in
Wow.
Q3 every year. We obviously can't say for sure why, but we speculate that's because the attackers have infiltrated the networks, and rather than encrypt immediately, they wait until the schools are back in session or about to go back, because that puts them under additional pressure to resolve incidents quickly. They don't want the districts to have the summer months to recover at their leisure.
Nice. I can, if and move it happened at the end of one school year, and then there's a bunch of new students coming in for the next year. So if you wait around long enough, you get more data as well. So yeah, it seems like we can't win this one, Brad. I don't know. It seems like we can't win.
Hey Brett, when you say seeing more in Q3, do you mean in like the education space in general, or do you mean overall?
Yeah, the education
Okay.
space,
Yeah.
particularly, numbers increase massively, 1,000% in some years.
And I wonder how many of that is just also organizations or districts that don't know yet because they haven't been. They too have been maybe not paying close attention over the summer months because they're tired like everyone else.
Yeah, and they'd likely know if their network was encrypted,
Maybe, hopefully.
I would think.
I've known a couple orgs that might take a while for that to be a thing. I don't know. So do you have any other parting words or advice for organizations that either have been dealing with Move It, don't even know if they basically just around this or some similar type of attacks? I mean, you've seen the aftermath. Do you have any guidance, help, kind words, or even just anything of comfort to tell orgs about it?
I think it is inevitable that some organizations which have been impacted by this don't yet know they've been impacted,
Okay.
simply because the downstream is so complicated. We're seeing cases where companies have been affected through the subcontractor to a contractor to a vendor. For example, these things are 3, 4, 5 levels deep. So organizations, even if they don't know that they've been affected yet, check your supply chain.
Wow.
You can find out.
Look under every rock that you can possibly look at. So where can folks Kimberly, unless you have some more questions for Brett?
I guess I'm just curious what kind of indicators people should be looking for if they do have a Move It installation that may have been compromised.
I didn't quite catch that, sorry.
Like the kind of you're saying that people may not know yet, like there's that delay in between the compromise and everything. Are there indicators that people could be looking for?
Not if it isn't their own deployments that have been compromised.
I see. So it depends on the ownership.
Yeah, beyond that, it's really a matter of dialing into threat intel platforms to see what info they have available. Although quite how quickly this is filtering through on there, yes, I just don't know.
So I guess everyone should be vigilant. Maybe do a couple more scans to see if you have like any movement stuff in your organization, or if your second, third, and fourth parties have MSoft in their organizations as well. Looks like the cyber folk who are at summer camp may have a lot of work to do when they get back from summer camp this week.
And another cautious, like we talked about this with Log4j, we'll talk about it with every major vuln like this, but don't forget about your backups. Don't forget about when you restore a backup. Like this is another prime candidate of, school example for school districts, but org goes out and maybe new year, new whatever, and they flush and start things new with new accounts. And restore maybe a clean backup that they took, last year or something to have that clean slate. Just don't do that blindly, like obviously patch your stuff, but we just see that so often where people will take care of, their mitigations, and then something happens or there's a change and they restore from backup and they forget to reapply their mitigations. So
it is a sad story that we actually have to be careful of the backups that we tell people to create to keep safe. It's we have a lot of great news. There's a reason for my background today, I guess. So Brett, where can folks find you on social media?
I'm on Twitter at Brett Callow.
Cool. And I'm assuming MSoft is just MSoft.com, right?
mcsoft.com. Yep.
Oh,
that's
cool. Cool. Well, you're welcome to hang. You're welcome, and you can bail if you need to. Again, it's super early, but I really appreciate coming on and sharing what you found and your findings on this. Everyone, go follow Brett because you'll learn a lot about what's happening in real time and be able to use that to help convince your org to do better at what you do cyber in your orgs. Thanks, Brett.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna show up some stats on our thing here. So we actually have hits for the Move It tag. This is a Move It Transfer CQLI attempt. All these links will be in the show stuff that our Overwatch Ashley puts out. Just want to show that we actually have been seeing it. So this, again, slightly negates some of my, we'll never see this again, or we will see it infrequently. Part of it's because this is a new tag. So this is something that we've just made recently. But the fact that we are seeing the activity recently, and this is all malicious activity, means that we're probably going to see a little bit more of it, and you at least can go find these IP addresses in your orgs. Any advice from Glenn or Kimber on what folks might be able to do with our data to help with this Move It situation?
I mean, absolutely. Again, reiterating the fact that when it's hitting our sensors, those are unadvertised, like unknowns on the internet. So that means it's a mass attempt. So absolutely, the standard advice of reviewing what we have for IP hits, using those for block lists, stuff like that, applies to this and every other vuln really that can be remotely exploited. That's one of the great benefits of our data, but yeah, also the flip side of that is to say, don't look at this and say, oh, there's only 2 IPs I need to worry about. Like, that's not true. These are, this is a representative sample of the internet. So 2 is a lot.
Yeah, and everyone should ignore my inability to cut and paste properly from my screen capture folder, because this is not the IP addresses for this one, but you can go to the tag and get the IP addresses. Kimber, what were you going to say?
I'd like to also offer the threat intel analysis option of what you can do with the GreyNoise data, which is, can you identify what kind of devices are scanning for this? Are they just DigitalOcean boxes, or is there something interesting about them? That is also something you can do with GreyNoise data without sounding too like, by the way, advertising. But that's largely what I do with this data,
Right.
because I don't have a Move It installation to defend. But beyond the block list and whatever, you can download those IPs and find what's up.
Yeah, that is one of the better uses. Like I am kind of a broken record with that myself. Is like, hey, use the IP list. This buys you time to do things, at least from the opportunistic stuff. You're not going to get smacked when you're not looking if you actually go do that. One of the other things that's kind of in the breaking news that is not an actual real thing yet is one of the like, so I dislike most routers. Most router folks don't build them well enough to get people to patch them properly or keep them safe or do any kind of research. And one place that does that really well, or I guess really poorly, is MikroTik. And there's yet another MikroTik vulnerability. There's an annual event, sometimes it's multiple times a year. I'm bringing it up now just because our friends over at VulnCheck, and former coworkers too, did a great blog breaking down some of the information. It's based on proof of concept that was released by another folks at Margin Research. And there's a potential for like 900,000-ish devices on the internet to be taken over and have bad things done with them. And one thing I just wanted to call attention to anyone that runs a MikroTik kit, like if you're listening to us, there's a really good chance that you do it right or your org does it right because you make them do it right. One big use that attackers do with these devices is to like not actually go attack the org itself, but to sit on that device and use it because it's kind of a good IP address and use it for other attacks. But they'll also install software on that device because it's a pretty powerful thing. It can be used as proxy servers as well. And then they just start to siphon information out of your organization via that mechanism. Or they do things like inject ads and malware and ads and adware into any session that you've got in there because you can break encryption on these devices like you can on other ones, which you should never do, and be able to do that. So just take it, like watch this one because this is an emerging thing. I'm curious what Glenn's and Kimber's thoughts are on this potential MikroTik madness situation.
I love the vulnerabilities in this device because they are so interesting to look at, and also the added input of them being primarily used in the spicy nations. So, anything involving Russia, Ukraine, that like kind of nation state level stuff is very interesting in the context of like these devices. So that's my interest.
Cool.
Yeah, Bob, I think my thought would you kind of hit on, which was, they may not, the compromise may not affect, you as the person or the org running the router, but it will be used or could be used for greater harm or greater attacks globally. And so, you suddenly become a part of a bigger campaign and not realize it, even though your stuff's operating seamlessly. So yes, another edge device or central device for groups to make sure that they're staying on top of, because the list does not stop growing.
And now, since Kimber is, as I mentioned, one of our product managers, I'm putting in an official request for the visualizers GNQL to have spicy countries as one of the GNQL options. Yeah.
Mark as spicy. Yes.
Yeah.
Chili pepper scale. Ghost pepper.
This is another one. It's cool. Kimber and I both had the idea to put this on. I don't know what Kimber's take is going to be on this one. I have a take, and I think Glenn might have a take too. You don't need to read all this text, but the SEC dropped some fun on orgs last week. There's one that we're going to probably specifically talk about here. There was a whole bunch of stuff in some new rules on cybersecurity risk management strategy, governance, and incident disclosure by public companies by the SEC, because they have to talk in boring speak all the time because they're financial folks. And there's a bunch of things in here about reporting and caring about cyber risk more and new forms and yada, yada, yada. The thing that kind of like got everyone moving last week is the new 4-day rule, which is basically, hey, if you have an incident, you got 4 days to disclose it. Or otherwise they'll be very cross with you. And so my hot take on this one is, it's interesting. I'm always in favor of organizations doing incident reporting. I wish more would. I mean, obviously I'm kind of from the Verizon data breach report thing. So of course I want more people to be able to have data so that we can make things safer in the long run, and at least tell people what's going on. However, the problem with this is it's like the orgs. Okay, I'm trying to be nice, and I'm not gonna be nice. Unless the tiny orgs are going to get hurt by this, tiny public companies that fail to do things and let's say get hit with Move It and maybe not disclose it right away, but then they do disclose it, they're the ones that are going to get slapped. The orgs that have the influence within these powers that be, they're going to get away with it, or the fines are going to be so stupid small that like it's easier to pay the fine than to do the right thing or to do what's in the regulation. So my hot take is, I don't think this is going to change a lot of behavior. But I'm also kind of negative in general when it comes to these types of regulatory things, especially on these types of companies. So I'm just curious what you all think about this, and hopefully you have a more positive take than I do on this one, because mine's all negative on this one.
Yeah, honestly, I'm totally with you on this hot take, because it's, for one, it's a form, like it's a government form, and I think we all have experience with government forms. So I think the thing that they're trying to mitigate for here is the big delay sometimes that there is in reporting. And like, just because you fill out some form, like I don't think that's going to solve the problem of the delay necessarily. It seems like maybe helpful to tracking. The one positive that I could see is potentially the tracking of supply chain, and that is like the supply chain attacks potentially. It kind of gives the government more insight into finding like correlations. Just the general tracking of like incidents a little bit easier. That's my like one positive take on the whole thing. But otherwise, it just seems kind of lip service-y to me potentially, screwing over smaller places as opposed to bigger places, which are really the problem. Glenn, I want yours. I want your hot take.
Something positive, something positive, Glenn, please.
I'm a little bit more in the wait and see camp. I think it's interesting it's a place to start. It's a place to I'm not gonna say like put everyone on the same field, because to Kimber's point, like the impact is going to be inequitable. But I do wonder. I guess kind of my thought is like, then what, right? You fill out the form, then what? Now what's going to happen next? Perhaps it helps with tracking or identifying insider trader behavior, because of people knew and you could see like changes that were made maybe within those 4 days or something. I don't know. So I'm kind of in the wait and see, then what camp.
Okay.
I do think it's a step in the right direction. Globally, I would, or more not globally. Well, globally, yes, but even more from a national perspective. Like, I wish that we had, some more standards for, between the different compliance sets that you have based on your data and your industry, and whether you're the TSA managing pipelines, or you're an org that was affected by Move It, whatever. Like, if we could get better alignment on all of those kind of reporting standards, obviously that's the dream. But I don't know. I'm gonna kind of sit in the wait and see, and I'm happy that there is something. But yeah, it is a form. Does anyone see that form, and how long does it take for someone to see that form, and does it really matter? I don't know yet.
I think most people know we don't post our handles or anything on these things. I'll need to do that on one of the slides moving forward. But most people probably know where we are on social media. Otherwise, you can just hit the GreyNoise account and like they'll feed it back to us. I am curious what folks in the audience think about this, and especially if you are in a public company. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to quote anybody because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. So, and you can post it on social media, and you can DM or whatever, and whatever platform has DMs anymore. But where I'm going with that is like, I'd like to hear like the folks in the trenches that actually are going to be impacted by this, and even the ones that aren't. Like, what's your opinion of it? Especially maybe if you've been in an org that it was in a public company, and you know what you would have thought about it there. And I'm curious because I would like to not be negative about this, but I have nothing but negative. So I'd like to be positive on this one, but try to convince me and see what I have. Change my mind on this one if you can. Oops, sorry about this. And Kimber special on this one. I didn't even think about putting this one in until Kimber mentioned it. So, but given that I am a huge fan of the X-Files seasons 1 through 7, or was it 6? I forget when Duchovny had to leave, but I'm a huge fan of the X-Files. This past week was insane on lots of levels, including this one. So Kimber, this was yours. So I'm wondering what you wanted to talk about on this one.
Look, I'm gonna bring it full circle that maybe, just maybe, other countries have technology that we don't understand. Maybe, just maybe. It doesn't necessarily have to be from space, but I would like to plant, just for, a little bit of levity here. Perhaps like maybe plant the idea that like someday we might be having to worry about not like spicy country vulnerabilities, hacking, etc., but maybe UFOs hacking us, hacking our brains, etc. Just, this is funny. I mean, this is just something that like time gets spent on in the government, and like I'm so here for it. I'm so here for it.
What's funny to me right now is Kimber's background noise almost makes it feel like she's trying to like distract us because she's actually from another planet right now.
Look, it's all very suspicious, Glenn. No comment.
I mean, I believe Kimber said she's in Nebraska, so she is kind of from another planet.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, okay, yeah, sorry, Nebraskans. Apologize ahead of time. Well, we should be worried about the hacking because, like, if y'all remember, like we did the cyber attack first. I mean, it was malware that took down the mothership in Independence Day 4.
Exactly.
I mean, payback's coming. You know it. So
I just love how little. I mean, it's getting some attention, but how little attention with like. There was a time when this would have like bombarded us for months, and now it's just another thing. But anyway.
Oh, but the news cycle is compressed so badly. But I linked specifically to this particular article from the Guardian because they have since it's Spicy Day at Stormwatch, they have they don't hold anything back about how dumb this thing was. So it's great if you want to see some snark on the government and stuff that we waste time on. It's a really good article for that. However, if there are any extraterrestrials watching Stormwatch, you might we'll
we invite you to come
in touch.
Yeah, you're welcome. Like you can be a guest. We can do the whole like cover your voice and face and stuff. It'd be great. But yeah, we're wasting time on this when there's so many other really big problems out there, like Glenn literally boiling to death in his state. So, so on to some real things, and maybe we can breeze through some of these things. We had 2 great blog posts last week. Actually, I probably shouldn't say that because I wrote one of them. So we had 1 great blog post. Remy did one. We had 1 that I wrote, covering Citrix and covering the Citrix vulns of last week. And it was actually Remy's is great because he walks through like all of the confusion surrounding these things and how everything came to be. So if you only have time to read one, read Remy's because it's great. And the thing is, like, it's been a really brutal couple of weeks from like days, 1 days, N days, just like this. I don't know how defenders are keeping up with it, especially right before summer camp. Thankfully, maybe with summer camp going on, we won't have to deal with a lot more of these, but you never know. It might actually be a thing. We had a bunch of these hit actually. So a bunch of these things that were in the past couple of weeks, we have tags for, and I will show you all the tags that we have for July in a second. But we're actually seeing activity for some of them, and I don't need to go into a lot of detail on these ones. I just wanted to let everyone know we're seeing mobile iron activity, not just scanning because we have a scanner tag too now, but we're actually seeing authentication bypass attempts, malicious ones. We're seeing for the Cold Fusion, why anyone still runs that software is beyond me. But there's 2 of them, and we're seeing folks hitting those as well too. And the Citrix share file one, we actually saw a couple blips on as well. And this was probably someone testing to see if they're there. It was the actual exploit attempt. But the reality is this could also just be an inventory scan too. So we're seeing as these vulns come out, and some of this is common technology, multiples of common technology in organizations. It's actually live and hitting, and you need to care about it. And again, I have since I used to be in the seats of a defender. I think all 3 of us have been. I empathize. I mean, I'm not there for a reason now, but I empathize with you on this one. And doing what Kimber said earlier, and what I said earlier, and using these IP block lists is a really great way to get some base coverage for at least the non-targeted attacks that you're seeing. And I say that because these 5 addresses were doing attacks across pretty much all of what I just saw. That I showed you out there. These are common things, and you block them, and they go away, and you have time to actually deal with it on the outside. Now, just to take it back real quick before I let everyone else comment on the tags we have for there. Like the move it vulnerability, what I want, like one thing I was going to dig into, but I didn't want to take up any more of Brett's time, is that like we're not seeing some of it because a lot of the move it hacks are internal. After phishing attacks and after getting with already initial access through some other way, they're going after move it internally. That's going to be the same thing. Like once they test a lot of these experimental things outside, they're going to go on the inside because Citrix is used a lot internally, especially in healthcare. So if we're seeing these things, you're going to see them internally as well. It's not just going to be an external one. So you can't just say, oh, I can block everything and go away. You really need to deal with these vulnerabilities. They're really pretty severe. I'm just curious what the two of you think, the fact that we're seeing so many hits aligned now with the things that have just coming out so recently.
Oh man, just silence. One of the things that I've seen is the I am spacing out on the tool right now, but basically like the templates for attacking these things come out in succession pretty quick. So I think it's interesting to note that these IP addresses do not all have like providers in common. They do not have RDNS in common, but what they're probably sharing is that tool set, or perhaps something along those lines, maybe using the same script, POC script. So I think that's interesting. It's a pretty good predictor of like traffic that will hit you with this stuff, and also like even just taking a look at what GreyNoise sees these IPs doing can be really good for. This is my SOC manager hat on right now. It's like if you show your SOC analysts what these attacks look like, it's a really good way for them to be primed for things in the future, or if they see an alert on it, then they'll know what it looks like and just be able to be like, well, we don't run Citrix, who cares, or something along those lines. But I will say I did really appreciate this Citrix Home because it was a really interesting one. The share file RC, there's been a couple of really good breakdowns of it, and we got a lot of good collaboration behind the scenes on this one, I believe. Was it the Citrix one?
Yes, we did. Actually,
we did.
Yes.
That was really cool.
I should mention them too on this one. Glenn, you need to cover while I mention them.
So to your question earlier, I mean, I think it's kind of pointing to just it's vuln season month, and it's just overall efficient, right? Like attackers right now have quite in the past 10 days they have several arrows to throw, and so they're not always the most efficient. I mean, the most selective, and when they just fire them away. So I think this just kind of points at also like people or attackers being efficient with opportunistic attacks.
And it was Bishop Fox who was working really closely with the team. Yeah,
the
they're awesome.
Foxes.
Yeah, they're awesome. They are really awesome. Cool. We're nearing the end. We have a lot of tags for July. This is I couldn't make it pretty. I'm not going to go through 30 slides of tags. So we have a lot of tags, and the noise letter comes out I think today or tomorrow. So you can actually get clicks to all these and have a nice little organized thing to see these. Just kudos to the team on this one. They hit it out of the park over the past 2 weeks working on these. And there was a couple reasons for it, which I'm not allowed to disclose one of the reasons today because it'll ruin some surprises later on. But I will encourage folks to maybe go do some counting on the tag lists of the site to see maybe how many tags we might have now. So this is pretty epic. And if any of the team is listening, gosh, I hope they are. Awesome job, everybody. Like seriously, great job. And a bunch of these actually do have hits. I only covered a light few of them. So definitely, if you have this technology, poke at it because it's something that you really should care about. I want to just re-up real quick. This is probably the last time that we mention it on the Stormwatch. This is the second week that the threat hunting guide's out. We haven't done a whole lot of like stuff around this yet, so I'm just trying to keep it out there in the zeitgeist. I contribute a little bit to it. Kimber and others did as well. I think it's a good overview of the topic. Should provide a lot of clarity, especially for folks thinking of getting into the field, but also for folks that are in it and some things that are coming down the pike. So definitely grab that and take a look at it. Kimber, you want to talk about the Noise Fest CTF?
Yes, I do. I am so excited about the Noise Fest CTF. Right now, we have 20 PCAPs for people to look at and find the flag in, and we are hosting it all on a CTFD instance. You can register for it right now. It will be starting the 7th. So I believe that's the Monday of Hacker Something, DEF CON, Black Hat, etc. And basically, we're going to have these PCAPs up. You're going to find the flag in the PCAPs, and you are going to claim victory when you find them all. But we've based everything off of tags that we actually have. So the team has grabbed PCAPs of those and inserted data in the fields that we find interesting or things that may be like crucial to understanding the attack method, etc. that we can see in this PCAP. So we've also included a little bit more beginner stuff. So even if you haven't taken a look at PCAPs, you should be able to open them up in Wireshark and just experience that little dopamine hit of like, oh, I found a flag. And with at least a few of them. And then this week, we're going to add in some bonus challenges as well. So those will be extra unhinged, I am certain, per classic GreyNoise Labs mentality. I am counting our registration numbers right now, and it looks like we have at least 100 people registered. So this should be a pretty good competition to see who can figure out all these PCAPs first. I'm really excited.
The Jen Andre, who is our head of product and a current and former coworker of Glenn's and mine, kind of wants that to be 500. So come on, folks, make Jen happy. Seriously, it'd be great if we could do that. And it's a lot of fun. I am not at Hacker Summer Camp. I don't know if I'm allowed to help people, but everyone knows my handles everywhere. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. It's that word that has no vowels in it on the screen. Pretty much everywhere, but I'm not on Twitter, so don't bother doing it there. Or on X, whatever it's called. So
I also wanted to say, like, if you're fully virtual, definitely you get the whole week to compete.
Yep.
We do have currently a channel in our GreyNoise community Slack for
cool. That's
Noise
right.
Fest. So Noise Fest CTF is the channel there. So if anybody has any questions, that's like the quickest way to get in touch. And yeah, virtual, do it.
And Noise Fest itself was go ahead.
The 7th is 1 week from today, by the way, which is wild. Tomorrow's August, in case no one is reading a calendar.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
And yeah, so virtual participation is welcome for the CTF. And it ends the following Monday, right, Kimber? So you have a week.
Yep. You have the full week.
You have the full week, and yeah, come be communal in our Slack, and there's also shenanigans involved, like Kimber hinted at. We can't do anything without shenanigans, so there's some fun little things in there as well.
And Noise Fest itself is now a wait list. So just keep applying, I guess. But the reality is like it's been an overwhelming inbox for folks to deal. And
I think the fire marshal has intervened or something.
Yeah, just a bit.
Yeah, officially.
Our Overwatch actually has to deal with a lot of that. And so not only does she do an epic job being Overwatch for us, but inundated is not even close to describe what it's been with the Noise Fest sub. So feel free to try, but you never know, you might get in.
Wait, I have one question about Hacker Summer Camp in general. Are we doing a Noisecast or Stormcast? Noisecast, Stormcast.
I don't know. Well, I can talk to Ashley about that. And Ashley, feel free to type in channel if you want to do that, or use your godlike powers and do your disembodied voice. I have no problem doing one next week. I'm gonna miss you guys unless you want to do it from out there, but I'm sure I can find some folks here to sub in.
I mean, I'm down. I'm down if Glenn's down.
Whoa, wait, actual from Hacker Summer Camp. Yeah, oh, look at that. See, we have the best Overwatch ever. Look at that. That is so cool. Massive powers. Don't take Ashley off, everybody. She can do terrible things.
We'll do some sort of what are we gonna do that's fun this week, and
we'll have maybe a pop-up appearance or something that's just, I don't know. There's no way to know.
I was telling Glenn Friday, because Glenn actually came back early, or he came back at the time he prescribed to come back. That also meant being at work before this week, but whatever. I don't think I'm never going to need to change the slide. I'm convinced I will never need to change this slide. It's been 4 days since because ever since Todd Beardsley joined CISA, and joined the crew that does this stuff, we've had every Friday there's a drop of Kev. So thanks for ruining everyone's weekend again, Todd, because I can blame you directly now. And we'll just keep this up there. So yeah, keep watching, everybody. Plan for your Fridays and Saturdays to get ruined. Thanks to Todd Beardsley. And that's a wrap. I'm going to take it back to me now. Where am I? There I am. Any parting words for everybody?
If you're headed out to Vegas for the shenanigan week next week, typical rules apply. Drink lots of water, bring lotion. Your skin's very dry, bring chapstick. Your lips are very dry.
Don't touch the concrete. Don't touch the concrete. You will literally burn your hands. Do not, or whatever skin you've got. Do not touch.
Do people walk on their hands?
People that trip are tripping. They're landing on concrete and they're getting second-degree burns on legs. Yeah, it's not great.
Right.
Also, if you want to talk about GreyNoise sensors in your network, or if you want to talk to me about PCAPs in GreyNoise, DM me.
Or UFOs. Or UFOs.
Or honestly, top most highest priority. If you want to talk to me about UFOs can hack our systems, like please. That is truly my interest.
Hey Kimber, should we just do like an unofficial live stream of just strictly UFO talk and nothing security related?
Oh my god! Please don't tempt me with a good time. Like that's coast to coast. It's like
I'm here for this. Yes. All right.
Cool. Well, Kimber, thanks for hanging in Nebraska on the road with us. I'm sorry for your technical difficulties, but it was great. Appreciate it. Everybody, Glenn is less impressive in person, but if you do go to Hacker Summer Camp, have fun. Feel free to say hi to him as well too. I just can't do anything about it. Yeah, I just can't do it. So I appreciate it, Glenn. Thanks for being back, and catch you all next week on Stormcast.
Bye.